because the topic of realization, the word realization, the connotations around realization and who's realized and what that means for us in the stage of practice, what does it mean for us in relation to the ultimate goal that we want to accomplish, what is realization? And sometimes that's not very clear. There's some romanticized ideas about what is realization, and I'll talk about that. But first, I want to kind of give a definition so we kind of set the table for what actually realization is. And I thought if I started by just establishing that, it would be the best thing. So realization is the subjective reality in any individual that's grown from spiritual information that removes any speculation and establishes truth. So realization, let me repeat it again. It's a subjective reality because everybody doesn't have the same experience at the same time in the same way. So everybody is in their own individual experience unfolding and growing. So realizations, first of all, that I'll get to the fact of how they're incremental, but nobody's unfoldment is exactly the same as someone else's. So it is a subjective experience, but it's born from spiritual information. Spiritual information here means from hearing sastra from guru or sadhu. That becomes, I'm using the word information, but actually it's transmission. So I'm using information just in general parlance, but actually what's happening is a transmission of the internal spiritual energy in the form of sound. So when we have classes, when you chant your mantras, when you chant Harinam, all of that is a spiritual sound vibration that's a transmission. It's not an information content. Like information is you can pick up the newspaper and find out what's going on in the world. That gives you information, right? But because it's based in material, in the material paradigm, it's temporal. It can't affect any major change in your actual spiritual your spiritual reality, even though it may affect you emotionally or mentally, depending on what it is. It doesn't have any direct effect on the unfoldment of the soul. So what differentiates spiritual information, I'm using the word, but spiritual transmission is that it actually has a functioning potency. One is that it removes speculation. I use the word speculation because people are always in the process of guessing, trying to figure out, trying to understand. So what spiritual transmission does is establishes the truth and it removes any speculation or conjecture. So I don't have to wonder because the experience itself, just like I'll give an example, if anybody's ever burned yourself, you don't need, even if you hear the information about fire, it's hot, etc., be careful. You can hear a bunch of information content. But once you've had any experience where you've put your hand on something hot or you've touched something that's related to fire or something, that experience is a realization, right? And it's a transmission that comes in your consciousness as a reality. This is hot. Even for small children, if even with the undeveloped consciousness at that point, still if they'll touch something hot, you'll see even in a 2-year-old, from that time on, they'll look at that thing, whatever it might be, the stove or a pot, say, hot, 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 hot. Because a subjective reality has set in based on that transmitted experience. So that's really what spiritual sound vibration is. I'm couching it as information because there's a lot of it, but it's really a transmission. What realization is not is the romanticized feeling about oneself or others based on a number of factors. Social perception, everybody says, just look at the way that person's eyes, the way they speak, and their eyes, the twinkle in their eyes, or the way they move their head. So sometimes social perception, or the fact that there's a consensus from a group of people, this person is a realized soul. Even though we may not truly understand, as I just explained or gave the definition for what realization is, we accept on the consensus, the social perception and consensus, this is realization. So, because if we don't have some metric ourselves, it's very easy to say, well, look, everybody's saying, just like anything else in the world, everybody's saying, and we tend to, go along with the social perception. The other thing is expectation. If someone has a title or someone is in a certain position in the social dynamic, there's an expectation that they have a certain level of realization. If somebody tells you that I've been a devotee for 50 years, right? Or now sometimes people say, well, I'm a Prabhupada disciple, right? Or something like that. Just the expectation that comes from the status that that person has by tenure, and I'm getting to the other two things, which is association, affiliation, they must have a certain level of realization, which is superior to mine. You understand? And I want to differentiate between observing etiquette in that regard, just like if somebody is an initiated disciple of our Srila Prabhupada, then we offer respect to the fact that that person has accepted initiation before we had accepted initiation and from our Param Gurudev, if that's the case for you, right? So, but we should not absolutely ascribe realization to that status. In other words, by the affiliation of having come at a certain time, take initiation, that becomes, automatic or axiomatic with that person must be more realized than I am. Why I'm saying that is, can anybody really account definitively for what they were doing in their previous life? How much bhakti had you done in your previous life? You can't assess. You can begin to assess it as you mature in bhakti. You can then begin to see the impressions and their unfoldment or manifestation in your life. But because you can't absolutely, especially in the more beginning stages of bhakti, ascertain how much you completed previously, you don't know. You really don't know where your spiritual unfoldment is. Of course, that's why sometimes you'll see a person comes to the path of bhakti and makes very rapid progress, because it's a carryover from the impressions in their previous life, right? So again, romanticizing realization as being something related to either social perception, what everybody feels about that person, expectations based on their affiliation or association or tenure, all right? All of these are not a true metric of realization. How will I know how that person is realized? I will have to have two things. One, their association, but also equally as important, to hear their realizations. Because realizations are manifest in the form of Hari-katha. You understand? Because sometimes it's mistaken to think, oh, well, maybe that's just learning. The person really has a good memory and they've studied a lot. But there are certain things in the course of giving Hari-katha that can't be transmitted as just academic prowess or good memory, deep study, etc., etc. It has to have been born from a sensibility of realization. And if the aspirant or the person who's hearing the Hari-katha is also in a surrendered mood, they'll be able to distinguish that transmitted spiritual potency from book learning or good memory or recitation of many verses, etc., etc. Okay? So it is not expectation, social perception, affiliation, or association. So, and I'm saying this, there's no other metric. There's no other metric except the perception of the influence of Swarup Shakti. Swarup Shakti means spiritual energy, the internal energy. When your heart is being illuminated, it's being nourished, then that is a direct perception. Even if you're not been in bhakti for a long time, that's a perceivable thing. By the way, Parvati, did you co-host Hari Namananda?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so I'm going to recite one verse here that describes this. Bhakti pareshanu bhavo viraktir anyatra cha isha trieka kala padya manasya yatashnantasyus tushti pushtikshur apayo anu agasam. So here, this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's describing essentially that devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things are the metric of realization. Bhakti means devotion. Para-isha, to your Ishta-dev. So here's just right away, there's one thing that can be ascertained about the level of realization. If a person declares to have bhakti or devotion, in their discussion, if there is no ekantic mood, meaning one pointed mood towards a particular Ishta-dev, means a particular form of the Lord, it's indicative that Sambandha Gyan has not arisen yet. So it's indicative that there's not deep realization because there's not a Sambandha. And a Sambandha is like a prerequisite to lead into a deeper level of realization. And if I have not established beyond the fact that Krishna's God, and hence all the other avatars are also God, and this is my proper duty religiously to accept the fact that he's God and I'm his servant, it's not a real deep level of realization. But we can't say it's no realization. So I don't want to create an atmosphere here that if somebody is so fortunate that in any religious tradition they recognize I'm the servant of God and they're trying to serve, that's not a great accomplishment in the human activity. It is. But in terms specifically to bhakti and realization, which is what we're talking about, the absence of one pointed bhakti paresha anubhav. Paresha means to a particular form of the Lord. The anubhav of feeling in that particular attraction, if it's not there, it's one symptom that realization is not so developed. So if you hear somebody's Hari-katha and there's not in that Hari-katha some indication of a realization regarding their Ishta-dev, just like my Guru Parapadma, whenever he would speak Hari-katha, it would always have some inclusion of the goal of Radha Dasyam. Now, that doesn't have to exist in every single person, but rather he was talking about not being the body, the material world is miserable, but our goal is to obtain service, the love of God, by serving the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. You understand? Now, that doesn't have to be for everyone. I know devotees who have a deep intrinsic mood of Sakyarasa, and they may speak in terms that are indicative of their mood in that regard. And it doesn't mean every lecture they give is going to be a whole exposition, just like in Radha Dasyam, everything has to be just Manjari Bhav, Manjari Bhav, Manjari Bhav. But the nature of their own individual unfoldment will always spill over into the Hari-katha. When you don't see that, or when you can't perceive that, and that could come for two reasons. One is we may not be as mature yet to catch it, but the other thing is that the person themselves is not yet situated in Sambandha Gyan. So they can only speak generically about the truth that Krishna's God, we're his servants, the material world is miserable, and our duty is to get out of the material world. So if that becomes a 40 or 50-year trend of Hari-katha, you have to evaluate. You have to take a sensibility. If you don't get a chance to talk to them directly, that though this person is sincerely serving and everything else, the deep levels of realization might not have taken place yet. That is not a criticism. That is a critique regarding Hari-katha. So first, let me explain. Criticism is when you weigh the faults and virtues of something with some malice, right? That's criticizing. When there's some malice involved and you weigh the faults and virtues of a particular issue or something or person even, and there's some malice, that's criticizing. Criticism is when you weigh the faults and virtues, but you have an indifference to the outcome. Critiquing something is when you weigh the faults and virtues with the idea of lovingly wanting to contribute to its betterment. Everybody catch that? Criticizing is just weighing faults and virtues. Oh, this is that, this is wrong, this is not good, etc. But you yourself with malice, just pointing out faults in something, basically. Criticism, you may weigh the faults and virtues, but you don't have any direct vested interest in making it any better. Critiquing, on the other hand, is looking at those faults and virtues with the direct intention to make the thing better, both by your own personal involvement, which means your own growing, and your own participation in making that thing better. So here, this is a critique regarding establishing the true understanding of what is realization. Because if that's not there, sometimes a devotee can become, and I've seen this, can become frustrated in the practice. Well, I've been doing this same thing for 30 years, 40 years, and I can't really say that I've seen Krishna. You understand? I mean, I went in the temple room yesterday, the deities were still standing there, they didn't say anything. Nobody, I even offered prasad, and when I went back, the prasad was still there. I don't know if they're eating or not eating. You understand? So a certain psychology can set in because I don't have a metric for what is realization going on. Am I actually advancing or not? You understand? And then that leads to a lack of enthusiasm. And Rupa Goswami is saying, Utsahan nishtaya dharyat. Enthusiasm, patience, and confidence are the hallmark positive elements of practicing bhakti. So if I cannot keep enthusiasm because I can't understand, just like if you're going to a particular destination, as you get closer to that destination, a certain feeling comes over you. Yes, I'm progressing. I've gotten there. Or if you have a goal to, do anything in business, in any field, and you see the accomplishment going on, you're nourished and encouraged to continue in that course of action. If that doesn't happen, then one or two things can happen. Either you'll give up the thing that you're doing, or you'll settle into a certain, this is just what it is, and you won't make any deeper investment in it. So this is what realization is, and I describe what realization is not. So devotion and direct experience of the Supreme Lord. Now the question could arise, well, wait a minute. I'm not certainly having direct experience of the Lord. So does that mean I'm not having any realization? We can't say that. Is there anyone who is on the phone, on this conference right now, who does not understand that I'm not this body? I'm not asking you that you fully realize. I'm asking, does anybody not understand that you're not the body? I have no takers. So I can glean from that some enlightenment is there, that there's an information content which has produced a sincere, conscious experience that I'm not this body, even though I may not have realized fully the import of that. Because are there people that you see in your everyday life who fully are absorbed in believing they're the body? Yes. There are people we see every day and in so many circumstances who are fully absorbed and believe I am this body. So the idea that you know that I'm not this body, whether that's become actualized or not, that is some realization. So direct experience of Krishna doesn't mean only darshan of Krishna. It doesn't mean only seeing the spiritual world. It means also the incremental stages of understanding. Yes, I'm not this body. It's not actualized for me yet, but I know I'm not this body. I know this body's temporary. I know the soul is eternal. That knowledge itself is an incremental stage of realization. So direct experience here means the direct experience both in its absolute context, but also in its incremental stages. Because we have direct experience, not full blown, but direct experience, I'm not this body. And is there anybody on this call that can be convinced you're the material body at this point? I mean, I'm feeling like it. I'm under the weather a little bit, so sometimes it can make you feel like it. But I'm thoroughly convicted that I'm not this body. You understand? So that is so it does direct perception here, devotion. Direct perception doesn't mean necessarily Krishna darshan, seeing the spiritual world. I've found my swarup, everything. It doesn't always mean that. It means also the incremental stages, right? And so it says, Bhakti pareshanu bhavo virakti. So virakti means detachment. So also we can look that we do have a detachment based on our attachment to Krishna consciousness. There is an organic and natural detachment that either has started to develop or has matured in everyone. There's an idea, listen, I have no interest to eat meat or eat flesh. I have no interest to get involved in things which are not favorable to bhakti. And those things, if they are present, they're present as a haunting from my past, not my current desire. You understand? There's a difference. We have material impressions from lifetime after lifetime, as well as spiritual impressions. Those impressions may come to haunt us. You understand? That's a difference from having a desire to do that thing. The proof is, if you do somehow or another become involved in that thing, there's a certain kind of remorse and repent and regret in my heart. I don't want to do that. I don't like it. Right? I'm overcome by the haunting of that thing from my past, but I don't like it. I don't want it. What I do want is pure bhakti. So virakti is also something that is an incremental development. The word virakti means detachment, right? Sometimes in the romanticized idea of realization, we want everything to be wholesale. So when I become Krishna conscious, I'll be completely pure devotee in my swarup, completely detached from the whole world, all at one time, right? And if it's not that, that means I'm the most fallen, I have no realizations, etc., etc. So I was telling somebody the other day, I was on another class, and this is a very high-level class that devotees are running, but a lot of the participants are not so steeped, right? So they're talking about things that are in both Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, also things related to, and this all stemmed from an original class on the Ras Leela. So you could see the level that they're discussing. But almost every person, every time they would read a passage, the host is saying, well, can you comment on it? And inevitably person say, well, that's way above my pay grade. Well, I don't have any realization about that, or this or that, you know what I mean? And what it is a sense of, it may be an inkling of humility, but not fully genuine humility. But also what it is really, I don't know. I really just don't know. And the idea being that even a discussion on this level is something that I'm not even sure I should be involved in, right? Though I may have been practicing now for 10, 20, 30, 40, or even 50 years. You understand? So in this way, the idea that somehow or another I'm have not gleaned this knowledge is indicative of either one or two things people will conclude. One is that I'm just so fallen. So even on my Guru-dev, right, especially for those who are disciples of Srila Prabhupada's mercy, power, devotion is so incredibly amazing. He fulfilled the prophecy of Mahaprabhu, but he could not help me to realize up to at least the point of Sambandha Gyan. You understand what happens? So we perpetualize a artificial sense of humility to some degree. I'm just so fallen. That's way above my pay grade. And these are the statements that become made. But what it is, and I mentioned it in the class, and people really resonated with it. What is that saying about Srila Prabhupada? You cannot extol the glories of your guru and then say, but in 50 years, I haven't gotten any realization from him. I've read the books, I'm doing service, I'm doing everything, but no real realization about the very goal he's teaching about. You understand? So when I mentioned it as we have to begin to first think, okay, listen, maybe it's my surrender level, maybe it's my endeavor in this regard, but certainly it's not just a matter of I'm just falling. Because if you've come to the lotus feet of Guru, there's some indication that I'm not fallen. I've come to Guru. I have some realization about the importance of realizing I'm the Das of Krishna. So we cannot simply couch everything in, well, I'm just really fallen, Guru. That's way above me. Yes. Because what it does is it minimizes the power, importance, and Shakti coming from Guru's Hari-katha, and in the case of our Srila Prabhupada, not only his literal Hari-katha, but the voluminous writing that he's done. So over the course of all these years, that hasn't impacted me in such a way that my level of advancement to see, oh, at least I see this goal. I can appreciate this. And if not having that, I have such strong desire to understand it. Understand? So bhakti pareshanu bhavo virakti. So this detachment literally means attachment to Krishna, because real detachment is the result of attachment to something else. Like in Bhagavad Gita, it mentions there, raso rajam rasopi asya param drishyan vartate. Giving up the things of the material world will always be proportionate to our attachment to bhakti. There's not a separate individual warfare with Maya, right? Sometimes it's couched like that. We're at war with Maya. But actually, we're not at war with Maya. We're simply trying to be under the shelter of Krishna. And Krishna has Maya under control already. You understand? So what we're really at war with is ourselves becoming more surrendered. We're not at war with Maya because you're not going to win that fight. If Maya's God's Shakti, God's own power, you're not going to win that fight. So even the mentality, we're at war with Maya, right? Sometimes it's used in a overarching sense of just like Srila Prabhupada would use it in the sense of we're trying to reestablish Dharma in the world. So we're at an overall war with the illusion that people are in. You understand? But the idea of the individual saying we're at war with Maya, what's your power to fight Maya? How's that worked out for you from innumerable lifetimes? But as soon as there was some idea of surrendering to Krishna, immediately then Krishna sends Guru, we do Guru Padasraya, and immediately we get on the path of bhakti. And we see, and remember, I've talked about this before, that if you look at the verse that describes Saranagati, there's only the first two things which are in the purview of the aspirant to do, which is to do what's favorable and avoid what's unfavorable. The very next line says, Rakshishiti Vishvas Goptarve Varanam Tata. So Rakshishiti means to protect. Vishvas, I have a conviction. The conviction is not that I can protect myself. It's that the person who's Goptarve Varanam Tata, who's maintaining my bhakti, will also protect it. Who is the person who's maintaining and protecting my bhakti?
Bhakti
Anybody?
Devi. Bhakti Devi.
Bhakti Devi. Through the agency of Guru and Parampara, Bhakti Devi is protecting. Therefore, the Bhakti Shakti is actually who's maintaining and protecting my bhakti. It's not me. When we become the Sakshi or witness to that phenomenon, then our surrender level becomes deeper. It's just like if a child is frightened by something, what is the first thing they do? They run to where? They run to the parent, right? And when they, not only do they run to the parent, but you notice they take shelter of the parent, snuggle the arms, and snuggle the head in the arms of the parent and get wrapped up. So that same mentality should be there in us, that I'm the witness to the power of bhakti over Maya. So I'm going to wholesale put the head in, curl up, wrap myself in surrender. And that's my warfare with Maya. I don't have a personal warfare with Maya. And when you do that, because Maya is Bhagavan Shakti, and she knows that, then Maya becomes Ma. In the word Maya, there's two syllables, Maya. So Ma means mother. So she then looks at you like a child, and she actually aids you by just like a mother teaches. Sometimes the lessons are hard, right? Like if the child is a little naughty, the mother gives a hard lesson. So you'll start to look at Maya as mother and how she's teaching me through either negative or positive influences how to stay in the shelter of Guru and Krishna. You understand? When we look from our own sensibility of I'm the doer, then it becomes very difficult because we feel like I'm the doer. And that's when you hear things like, I have to work on myself. Who's actually working on us? Like if you go to get an operation at the doctor and you lay on the table and say, I've got to work on myself, hand me the things. There's no logic there. It's the most ridiculous thing. We surrender to, well, in many cases, anesthesia, right? but we surrender to the process and we trust that the doctors, which in this simile would be like Guru, that they're going to do the healing mechanisms. We're surrendered. We've understood I'm not feeling right. I'm sick. We've gone to the doctor, got the diagnosis, then we've surrendered to the protocol. You don't go in and say, I got to work on myself. Okay, you told me what's wrong. I'm going to work on myself. You got any operating tools? You understand? We don't do that. So in the same way, approaching bhakti, then we surrender, right, is the first anga of bhakti, and we become what's called the sakshi. Word sakshi means witness. So rather being the doer, we're the witness. And when we become the witness, we are in a better position to have descending perception. So the next thing about realization is that it is a descending phenomenon. And this phenomenon attaches itself to the fertile condition of the heart, or chitta. So actual realization, which is the samvit vritti, samvit vritti, there's in Swarup Shakti, there are three things. Somebody name the three things that compose Swarup Shakti, or the internal energy. Vinay already answered, so somebody else has to do.
Samvit.
Samvit.
Aladini.
Aladini. Very good.
And what did he say?
Sandini.
Last one.
Sandini.
Sandini. Right? So the two features, they're called vrittis, or functions, of Samvit and Aladini, is what descends onto the consciousness, or chitta, or in the heart of the jiva, that gives illumination in incremental stages. First, it happens by what's called a prabhav, an influence. And then in the stage of bhav, the substance of Swarup Shakti descends itself. So realization is a descending phenomenon that attaches itself to the fertile condition of the heart. So as you're practicing bhakti, Shravanadi Sudha Chitte Karyayudoi, in one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita is mentioned, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajja Kabunoi. Your activity itself is not what's producing bhakti. That I'm chanting, I go to Mangalarti, this is producing bhakti. It's not. Bhakti is Nitya Siddha. It's already existing eternally in the hearts of the associates of Bhagavan. So it's not producing bhakti per se. What it is doing is invoking the creeper or descent of bhakti. Is there a power in prayer? Yes. If you go and you beg somebody very sincerely, oh, can you help me like this? Can you help me like that? If the person has any compassion, and we know that Bhagavan is unlimitedly compassionate, and you're begging, especially Srimati Radharani, Karunam Kurumai, Karunam Bharite, Sanaka Sanatan, Varanita Charite, Radhika, so merciful. If you're begging by the nature of your activity, Radharani is Vinay Prabhu, she's Bhakti Shakti personified. She sees that invocatory behavior and allows that invocation to be a request for her mercy to descend. Then the Samvit Vritti means the feature of illumination is going to be the best way to use it contextually here. The Samvit Vritti gives illumination. Oh, yes, clearly you're not the body. Why are you not the body? Because you're the Das of Krishna. Now, that saying I'm the Das of Krishna is not just a philosophical idea. It's an actual constitutional reality. So that constitutional reality becomes illuminated by Samvit Shakti. So now, if I'm the body, right, and I admit that I had a previous life, was it the same body I have right now? Therefore, which one of the bodies am I? You understand? Because immediately Samvit illuminates. If you say you're this body, at the same time you admit I had a previous body. Did you have one before that body? Which one of them are you? You understand? So the Samvit Vritti actually begins to illuminate these kind of realities. So I said, well, I can't be this body. So I'm the Das of Krishna. As the Das of Krishna, I'm not aware yet. It's growing, but I'm not aware yet of my actual identity spiritually. But having been convicted of the idea, means, situated in the idea that I can't be this body based on the function of Samvit Vritti that has come in the Hari-katha, the illuminating knowledge coming in the lectures and katha of Sri Guru and sadhus, right? That have descended to me, because you can't climb up to it. It descends. It's a descending phenomenon, and then it appears on the heart. And then the chitta means your heart extends itself as consciousness. That's called the chitta. You understand? The chitta functions, for lack of a better word, as a liaison between the soul and the material world, because the soul and the material world never actually touch. It's a vicarious experience. I've given the example before, like watching a movie or something, right? And you can become emotionally invested in the movie, the hero, the heroine, the plot, etc., right? But you're not actually there. So in the same way, the soul is never really in or touching the material elements, because like oil and water, they don't mix. There's no arrangement for them to bind. And this is in the Upanishads. Asanga hi anyam purushaha. Purush means the individual soul. Asanga. They never have sangha with the material energy. It's only vicarious, right? All right, give me 1 second here. All right. So it's a descending phenomenon. And when it descends, the samvit vritti gives this kind of illumination. So it happens in incremental stages. It's not that it's all or nothing, as I explained before. It's not that I'm having darshan of Krishna, I realize my sarupa, or I'm not realized. You understand? Every single thing that we are illuminated with is an incremental stage of realization. So we can stop romanticizing realization. It's only there in the person who has the squinty eyes and they shake their head when they speak and they seem absorbed, right? It's, you know, that's perception. You understand? When you hear the Hari-katha coming out, if the influence of the samvit vritti in the Hari-katha, right? Like in the verse, satam prasanga mamma virya sambido. Satam means a sadhu. Prasanga, when your heart is open because you're surrendered and the sadhu is bona fide sadhu, a prasanga takes place. The prefix in Sanskrit pra means prakristrupen, means completely. Sangha means a sensibility of samyak rupen anugamana. It means completely feeling a mood to follow and take shelter under that environment. That is called samyak rupen anugamana, or doing sangha. You understand? So when the samvit in the Hari-katha, in that verse it says Mama Virya Samvido. The word samvat means Hari-katha. Mama Virya means Swarup Shakti. Srila Prabhupada translates it as the wonderful activities of Krishna, because Hari-katha is normally composed of the wonderful activities of Krishna. But the function in that samvad is samvit vritti of Swarup Shakti. That's giving the, and as you become illumined, the Ladini vritti, the pleasure potency, makes you feel like, oh, very nice. Very nice. This is very nice to hear. Yeah, that's what's giving that sensibility. You understand? Or you wouldn't be back next week. Of course, next week I'll be traveling, so it's no class. But you wouldn't come back, right? There's better, people could think, oh, I have something else I could do on Sunday. You understand? But it's the idea that when we're discussing these things, it is giving illumination in the heart, and that illumination gives a sensibility of feeling peaceful, no anxiety. And more so, it makes us feel more dedicated to Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. And even more than that, if we have some maturity, it's illuminating our sambandha to Krishna. So if I have aspiration for Manjari Bhav, or in the Hari-katha, that's being illuminated. All right, so it's a descending process. Now, the chitta can become fertile by two things. It's very rare, but bhakti is independent. So bhakti does not have to say, oh, that chitta of that jiva has to be completely fertile and pure for me to descend. Can bhakti descend of its own accord? It's independent. We can't control. Because sometimes you have the idea, oh, no, you can't be realized, because if you have any inkling of sense gratification, that means you can't be realized. Bhakti is not dependent on our attachment to sense gratification or not. It's not an advocacy for sense gratification. Don't be confused. I'm speaking to the independence of bhakti. Can bhakti appear even in the most vile person?
Yes.
Yes. Bhakti param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam ridrogam. Even a heart that's fully diseased with calm, lust, anger, envy, everything, it can appear there. Who is the example of that?
Bilmangal Thakur.
Bibal Mangal Thakur, but also Parvati saying Jagai Madai. My wife's also saying it from the bleachers there. They were the example of that. It wasn't that, you know, they somehow or another had a change of heart over a period of time. Instantly, when Nityananda gave his kripa, then immediately Jagai checked Madai from hitting him again with the pot, and immediately they had a transformation. And in short order, Mahaprabhu came there and gave them love of God. This is all in the same day. Right? Because the Leela is taking place all at one time. It wasn't like over the course of time they became realized. In that one, of course, they're Giant Vijay. We know the backstory, everything. But in the Leela, in that one incident at that time, that Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu, under Nityananda Prabhu's desire, they went to Jagai Madai, the most fallen, to prove that the ultimate thing is Kripa. And by that Kripa, even Jagai and Madai, who were so sinful that the scribe named Chitragupta, who keeps account of our sinful activities, they took their logs, their books regarding the sins of Jagai Madai and threw them in the ocean. And they told Yamaraj, we can't keep up with this. You understand? Even if we had AI, they couldn't keep up with the sins of Jagai and Madai. You understand? So just the power of Kripa. So the fertility of the heart can be done either by Kripa, but that's very rare. So we should not make a program that, oh, I will get the Kripa, and therefore I will not endeavor to practice bhakti properly because it'll happen by Kripa. That is subtly becoming a conception. That Srila Prabhupada is so merciful that I just realized I'm never going to understand all these things in this life. I'm not going to really maybe attain them. But when I die, Prabhupada will be merciful to me. So now it's almost a standard thing. When anybody passes away, they say they've gone to be with Srila Prabhupada. But if we're saying Srila Prabhupada is Nitya Lila Pravishta, he's entered into the Nitya Lila of Radha and Krishna, you're essentially saying this person, even though they did not perform bhakti and come to the realization even of Bhav or Nishta maybe, they've gone back to Godhead. So it starts to skew a little bit the actual philosophy and turn it into a sort of version of Christianity. You understand? So it's not a question about the potency of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. It's a question of whether or not we are misusing that understanding of the mercy of Prabhupada and creating a religious mixture of Judeo-Christianity and bhakti. You understand? So in normal circumstances, the descent of that realization will come from the cultivation of bhakti through the practice of sadhana, which is invocatory in nature, means it's an invocation for the Kripa, that I'm doing what's favorable, avoiding what's unfavorable, and trying my hardest. That's invocatory power that then calls out to Radharani, oh, Bhakti Devi, please be merciful to me. Then Bhakti Devi through Parampara allows the descent first by influence and then by substance of the descent of realization. The growth of that realization can also be monitored by the ability to resonate with Sri Nam, your Diksha mantras, and Hari-katha. When you chant your Nam and you chant your Diksha mantras, if those two things synthesize, and when you hear Hari-katha, you can make the connection between the three things, it's the indication of Samvid Vritti being present or realization being present. Let me describe this clearly. If you think that I'm chanting the Hare Krishna mantra as a process to get out of the material world, is that the real chanting of Hare Krishna? So I'm going to ask somebody to unmute and explain to me why that's not really the chanting of Hare Krishna.
I say no, because then it's like you feel that you are the doer there. You are trying
Yes,
to achieve what can only be given by mercy. You know?
exactly. Very good point. Parvati, you're unmuted too?
Well, I was just going to say that prayer, the chanting is really a prayer, and we're turning it all about I, instead about Radha and Krishna.
Exactly. Because the self-interest becomes prominent in that chanting. I need to get out of material world. I need to get away from suffering. I. Plus, can you get out of the material world by other processes? You can go to any yoga, gyan, any other kind of modality and get free from material energy. You don't need to chant Hare Krishna particularly to get out of material consciousness. So what is the real purport in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra? What is it for?
It's to unlock our Understanding and service to Sri Sri Radha Krishna Yugal.
What is the culmination of that? You're right, but what does it culminate in? It's called
Love. Your love.
love.
Yes.
Yeah. So the purpose of the Hare Krishna mantra is love of God. You understand? That's the goal.
Yes.
So the Diksha mantras, are they for a different goal?
No.
The Hari-katha and Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, is it for a different goal?
No.
No.
Therefore, when you're practicing with the synthesis of that goal, which is called the prayojan or the sadhya, and you're doing sadhana, practicing with the synthesis of all those things towards that goal, it is another symptom that realization has come.
Mm.
You understand?
Yes.
It's another symptom realization has come. If you think I'm doing a method, right? We're suffering in the material world, except so I'm doing a method called mantra japa, right? To get out of this mess of the suffering here, etc., etc. That's not what Harinam is. And therefore, because it's being used as a methodology, a modality, is it necessary for Radha and Krishna to reveal themselves?
No. Not
No.
in that case. No.
No, but if you're in deep love with them and you want to serve them, is there some necessity for them to show their mercy and reveal themselves for service?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you can understand there's a difference between chanting without the perception of a sadhya, which is love of God, and chanting with the perception of a prayojan or sadhya or goal, which is love of God.
Mm.
And the same applies to hearing Hari-katha, chanting the Diksha mantras, doing service, everything else is synthesized or resonates with that ultimate goal. By the way, that's what the book is about, Sambandha Abhidaya and Prayojan. That's why
I can't wait.
right?
But I already love God. So what's the point of me chanting? Because I've heard somebody said that to me before.
That they already love God, so what's the point in chanting?
Yes, I already love God. So what's the point of me chanting?
Well, I would first ask them, who's God?
Very good.
Right? So you tell me
Right.
yes. You say, I'm going to love my girlfriend. What's her name? Where does
Oh,
she
right.
live? What kind of relationship do y'all have? You understand? And when you start getting into the questions, you'll find out it's a generic feeling that they want to have for themselves, but it's not a genuine feeling. Because if you say you love God, right, then it's an assumption God must love me.
Right. Totally.
You understand? But then if you know nothing about that God, you have no inclination of a particular mood or eternal identity because you say you love God. What about your next body? You understand what I'm saying? In your next body, you also love God? You don't know.
Right. You don't know.
So, and also, if love of God is an eternal phenomenon, I'm coming to it. If it's an eternal phenomenon, and you're identifying that you love God in this temporal arrangement that you have, that means will you love Him afterwards? This temporal arrangement is over.
Right.
So it's a good, it's a feel good saying, but you'll find that most of these things are really eye oriented.
Right. Very much.
Trivikram Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. So it's kind of a two-part question, and I think but I think you've kind of addressed it already. So when we're doing any of these things, whether it's listening to Hari-katha, whether it's reading on our own or doing japa, is it correct to say that the goal is just to associate with Krishna, and through association and serving Krishna, then we can actually come to love Krishna? It sounds like what you're saying is we can have this, I don't want to say fake, but this not necessarily genuine term, I love God. And that's the thing we all want to say and things like this. But the way we come to love God is through his association, right? So if we don't seek liberation through Bhakti. That's, that's something I understand very clearly. And so if we're doing this with less than genuine means, I guess my question is, does it become an offense?
It's not really offense. It's a lack of maturation, but not an offense. If we see that the process is related to love, just like when you're dating somebody, the buying roses, the phone calls, the text messages, they're in pursuit or they're invocatory in nature to invoke love in that other person. Yes or no? Yes. So the activities are meant for love of God. When there's lack of realization, the activities are I-centered and therefore it becomes predominated by, I'm trying to get free from suffering. Because I realized I'm not this body, the material world, I want to get free from that suffering. And when I do eventually get to Krishna, I'm going to enjoy myself like anything eternally in the spiritual world. You understand the difference in the conception?
So there's a philosophical question that comes up in many different arenas. And that question is there such a thing as altruism? So in this case, because when we do nice things, it feels nice for us. So that begs the question, is the nice thing actually for the service of the other person or group, or is it because it makes me feel nice? So I guess that would be my second question to you is, when we're doing this, we understand the intention should be for service to God, but we also recognize that it makes us feel nicer, lighter. It puts a joy in our own life. So how do we navigate that correct feeling of service? Because we do understand there will be the byproduct of love of Krishna, and it feels nice, but that's not the goal. So how do we navigate making sure that we're staying in a sense of true service to Krishna and coming to know Krishna, rather than this makes me feel good?
That's an excellent, excellent question. As we begin to mature in bhakti, our self-interest begins to wane. Like the beginning, the self-interest, which our Srila Prabhupada even gave credence to, is that when you recognize you're suffering, you need to get out of suffering, right? Somebody's starving, you don't want to go and give a philosophical lecture before you give them some prasad, right? So he acknowledged that. But then he says, as there's maturation, right, and the condition of the person's heart becomes more healthy, then the altruistic mood becomes more dedicated solely for the pleasure of the object of the altruism. You understand? It's a question of maturity. So in the beginning, it's only natural that some I-ism is there because it's been our condition of unlimited lifetimes in the material world. But as there's maturation in bhakti, and as we're discussing realizations, then the focus shifts to the object of our altruism being the prominent feature. Now, the natural byproduct of that, because the internal energy is composed of three things, but the two we're talking about, Sangvit, the illuminating, realizing energy that comes in us, and the Ladini Vritti, the happiness from that, because it is also the natural state of the Atma to be happy. And as the Atma becomes closer to its teleological fulfillment, teleological means its purpose, its fullest purpose, its fullest potential, you understand? Naturally, that happiness increases. So it's a byproduct. You understand? Just like somebody may be taking medicines, working out, doing so many things for their health, but the byproduct is you get endorphins and you feel good about it. You understand? So it's not that the two things are, so even in the verse that I read earlier, it mentions Prapasyamanasya yata snatasyus tushti pushtikshut apayo anuagasam. That just as when you take a meal, simultaneously three things happen. With each bite, you become satisfied, you become happy, and your hunger is dissipated. You understand? Haribol Mohini? Oh, okay. So three things happen simultaneously, just the natural byproduct of taking food. In other words, when you eat something and the hunger stays, then there's something wrong in the eating process. I'm eating, but I'm still hungry. So similarly, in the spiritual paradigm, as your altruism, as you're describing, which is essentially a synonym in this case for growing in love for God, as that increases, it's a natural byproduct that your happiness comes. So we're not at a fight to make sure, God, I want to serve you, but don't make me happy. So we're not in that kind of dichotomy with ourselves that, God, I'm trying to serve you, but I keep getting happy. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. You understand? So that's not an issue. It's when our self-interest and our happiness overshadows or overrides the tendency for pure love. So anya abhilasita sunya, any abhilasa desire, which jnana karma anavritam, which anavritam means covers the essential desire to love and makes my desire prominent, is unsuitable to bhakti. Understand? Not the fact that I'm being happy by doing service.
Are these reasons that you're mentioning, and this might be a speculative question, but in both Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, it tells us Krishna specifically tells us to serve the devotees, and through serving devotees, we're serving Krishna. So is this a way for us to serve and come to a genuine appreciation for this in a material sense so that we can then elevate to doing the same thing for Krishna?
Exactly. Because by service to a Vaishnav, we develop seva vritti, it's called, the mood of serving. And because the Vaishnav appears within our purview, we can see, touch, do actual service, then that vritti is nourished. But who is Sadhu Guru? They're the agency of Bhagavan. Sakshat Hari Tvena Shamasta Shastriya. They're the agency of Bhagavan. So the service is actually for Bhagavan. Therefore, if the Sadhu Guru takes the service and enjoys it, that person becomes aparadi to Bhagavan. You understand? If the Guru starts enjoying the idea, yeah, I'm being served. You come in there, Sri Guru Charana Padman. Your eyes get squinty and your head gets, you understand? And you start enjoying. Then you become aparadi to Bhagavan. This is called Guru Abhiman. So there's a very nice bhajan for Nityananda Prabhu, who's the Akhanda Guru Tattva. He's the embodiment of Guru. And it says, Akroda Paramananda Nityananda Rai Abhiman Sunya Nitai Nagare Vedai. So the word Abhiman means a self-conception. It says that Nityananda never becomes angry because anger is the result of unsatisfied desires. So it says he never becomes angry because Abhiman Sunya Nitai. He's devoid of any Abhiman except I'm the sevak of Mahaprabhu. You understand? So this mood should be there in Guru Tattva and in the persona of a sadhu who's doing that function. Therefore, he sees when he's being served by any disciple that, oh, how they're serving Radha and Krishna. So then he also becomes an extension of the invigatory process. Oh, Radha, please bless this person. Please give your mercy. Even before you give to me, please give to this disciple, this Sishya. Because Guru-disciple relationship, I was saying this to someone the other day, is actually a relationship of love. It's not a institutional status. You're a disciple and you have a guru. It's a relationship of love. That's called Vishrambena Guru Seva. So anytime that love can't be there and it becomes institutionalized, it restricts, contracts, and diminishes the real exchange between guru and disciple. Because the portal through which the transmission takes place is based on the healthiness of the heart being open. The medicinal property for that heart being open is the love and affection showed by guru to the disciple and vice versa.
So in essence, we're practicing how to love Krishna through showing love to our guru, and our guru has taken us under his shelter to allow us to learn this love. And as our maturation in the process continues, this love for Bhagavan becomes genuine in the heart, whereas maybe at first we are in such an ignorant status that we don't understand how to. So by taking shelter, that ignorance can be washed away. Yes. And then Guru can show us what appropriate love looks like, and then we can take this appropriate love to Sri Radha and Sri Krishna.
Yes, I'm coming, Chaitanya Mangala. One of the first things that Gurudev does is by the affection they show to the disciple, they show how much Bhagavan loves you. You understand? That's why it's important to have that kind of loving affection for a disciple. If you don't have that, don't make a disciple then. This is that simple. Because if you cannot show that kind of love and affection, you should show it to all Vaishnavas. But any disciple you've taken or any friendship you have with devotees, you should show that kind of love. Because that is the reflection of how Bhagavan, as the super soul, loves them. They cannot see the super soul. Jive sakshat nahi chaitya guru rupe. Shiksha guru hoy Krishna mahant swarupe. Because they can't see the super soul appears in the form of the guru. You understand? But if the guru thinks I become the Paramatma, then probably red flag. You should probably say, done the watch from afar. Or in local terms, keep it moving. Anyway, let me stop. The church, I think, just came. Chaitanya Mangal, you got a question?
Oh, Jaya Guru Days. Done about Pranam. When we're chanting Hare Krishna and knowing the knowing and realization of when we're chanting Hare Krishna, the separation and the meeting and the separation of Krishna is in the actual chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. When we knowing that, but serving Guru actually gives us that realization of what that really means, because knowing it is one thing, but realizing it and being able to put it into your daily activities and how you research it, how you're serving Guru. Is that how that works?
Yeah, one thing is, this is one of the things, how do we see realization, right? Because everybody has those sort of, what do you call them? Parameters around what they want to feel, because am I going too far and am I becoming a sahaja, et cetera, et cetera. That's why the guru-disciple relationship, that loving affection can be openly expressed more, because it's a way to express love. And who's the love, when you express love towards Guru, who's the love actually going to?
Krishna.
Yeah. So it's a practical thing, because if you try to assess within myself, how much am I loving Krishna in my chanting, before there's a maturation there, then there'll be doubts and apprehensions. And like I mentioned in the very beginning, there may be some speculation and so forth, so on. But as the chanting matures and the consistency of the understanding of the love being expressed between Guru and disciple relationship, then at that point, as your chanting matures, then the revelatory power coming through Hari-katha, association with Guru, and through the name itself, Krishna begins to show in the name, in the mantra. Nam, what is this? Abhinatvam nama namnyo. That my name and myself are not two different things. You understand? The disciple, as the aspirant gets closer to that understanding, then a perception comes in the heart. I'm not chanting a mantra. As somebody mentioned earlier, I'm having Sri Krishna, Sri Radha association. You understand? Now, when there's so much Hari-katha, the nature of that association takes on a form in the heart of experience through hearing the Hari-katha. So I'm coming back to Vikram Prabhu. There's one more verse here I want to quote. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita rit saroja eshe shruta ikshita pata nanu natta pungsang. It says that Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita means when your bhakti starts to become mature. Rit saroja means in your heart, the lotus of your heart, meaning the heart or consciousness has become fertile, so it's fragrant like a lotus. Ashe, Bhagavan takes his seat there. He's already there as Paramatma. But what happens? Shruta ikshita pat. You now see Bhagavan through the ear, not through the eye. This is a very deep concept. I'll have to speak about this more, maybe while I'm traveling. Shruta ikshita means to see. Shruta means to hear. When you're able to start seeing by hearing. In other words, when the Hari-katha starts to give epiphany in the heart. So don't close your eyes and go, I can't see it, Gurudev. Gurudev, I don't see it. Hear it. Hear it and allow the Samvit Vritti of Swarup Shakti to illuminate it. And then I'll give you an example. The form of Radha and Krishna in the deity form, you've seen before, yes?
Yeah.
Shri Radha Murlidhar. If you close your eyes right now, can you see within your consciousness, because you've had that experience, the form of Radha Murlidhar?
Yes.
This is called Shruta Ikshita Pat. When you hear the Hari-katha related to Shri Radha Murlidhar, and you synthesize the two things, this becomes Shruta Ikshita Pat Sangha, associating with Radha and Krishna via the name, which is non-different, and the Leelas heard in the Hari-katha, seeing it by hearing it. Because Radha Murlidhar is not in front of you, but you close your eyes and you can see in your heart because you remember serving them.
Yeah. Thank you, Gurudev.
Called Shruta Ikshita Pat. All right, Trivikram Prabhu, and then we gotta maybe take one or two more.
Apologize, everybody, for all my questions. So earlier in the class, you were discussing, and this is something that pertains to our Sangha specifically in Tulsa. When we're sharing things through readings, whether it's the Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita, and people saying, that's above my pay grade in these things. We're in a position specifically where we do have a lot of new devotees, and we want to encourage people to partake in the class. And so if we go through and 6 people in a row, like, oh, I can't speak to that, should we be encouraging them to maybe at least ask questions or just give their simple insight, maybe whether it's right or wrong, so that we can have discourse on it? We're in a stage where we're wanting to encourage people to go deeper. And, it kind of feels sometimes like between Yugal and Krishna-dev and Balaram Prana, there's a lot of information being given, and then it's, oh, I can't speak. Oh, I can't speak. Oh, I can't speak. So what are ways that we can invoke people to engage in a way that can encourage them to go deeper without coming across in potentially a chastising way?
Always the Hari-katha should be Adhikar specific. Every time I've come to Tulsa, we have huge audiences, and it's, the last time it was like the variety was incredible. So it's like, you can't always speak in an audience like that, things which are appropriate to an Adhikar for devotees who've been practicing for some time, etc., or even have aspiration for that. So you have to give people a vision of the next step while firmly situating on the step to that step. You understand? Because they need to be able to speak to something. Because if you speak in such a way that the gap between what they're able to speak on and what you're telling them is so far away, they don't see it as related to them. Bhakti always has to be something I could feel related to. So just like when we were in Tulsa the last time, remember the Babalao who came? Right? Because I could even have a conversation with him in the context of his religious experience, it just created, so he may never understand what is Manjari Bhav. You understand? But it created such a resonance in him to associate with devotee. Yeah, this person knows about this, and he related it to this, and he could make parallels between his practice, which is Ifa, and Bhakti. You understand? So that gave him a thrust of enthusiasm about investigating Bhakti a little more, because he sees a parallel to what he's doing. So he feels it broadens his scope from where he is. If it always jumps into a level of, just like if I went to, or if anybody went to his Sangha or whatever, and they started talking about things which are way out, we just lose interest. You understand?
So keep it palatable for the new people, essentially, to keep it, understand what the level of the class is, and keep it understandable to that level. Is that what you're saying?
But at the same time, keep a sense of forward momentum.
So like dangle the carrot a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good expression.
Okay.
So that they see the next thing, because now I've understood something, and I'm reaching for that next thing you just talked about, because it sounds very intriguing.
Okay. Thank you, Guru.
Gail?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to articulate my question very well, because the thing I want you to explain, I can't even. You remember a little while ago you were saying that when we engage in the process with the goal in mind, it was like you were saying something like our endeavors become like not exactly one with the goal, but I'm sorry, I can't really remind you properly.
I think I was you're saying that I was speaking about making a connection between the goal and the practice.
Yes. So, I really wasn't following properly that particular part.
Yeah. So let me give you an idea. If you're going to be a track star and you're going to run a 100-yard dash,
Yeah.
do you need to know where 100 yards is?
Yeah.
Right? And I also need to map out from where I am to that 100 yards, how, what's going to be the best methodology for being able to keep my breathing going, keep my fastest pace. All that science has to go into it. But it doesn't mean anything if I haven't marked off where 100 yards is. You get the idea? So in the same way, without a goal, Bhakti will automatically, the practice will automatically descend into salvationism, because everybody has the interest in heart to get free from suffering. And so it will take what is it? Water seeks its lowest plane,
Yeah, level or something. Yeah.
lowest level. Similarly, our bhakti practice will seek its lowest level, which is, wait, Buddhist, I don't know about all that Manjari stuff, but I just want to get out of this material world. You understand? And so therefore the depth of the experience does not increase. So what happens is that then the happiness will be drawn from the mode of material goodness. I explained this many times before. That I'm vegetarian, I'm around good people, and the atmosphere is very nice. It seems peaceful, so forth and so on. So I'm cool here. I'm good, right? Don't get me into the whole going deep into manjaris and all that. I'm good, right? And also, by the way, when I die, it's gonna happen anyway. Prabhupada's very merciful. You understand? So it's important to have a synthesis of what the goal, right? That's, again, another reason because in traveling, I experienced this. I've been around devotees who've been around for years and years and years. They're not clear what is Sambandha Gyan. They know the word means relationship, but they're not clear what did the Diksha mantras have to do with it? Then it's not clear on the things. And it's not that it's not in Prabhupada's books. It's there. It's that over the course of time, you got to think about, you hear one Bhagavatam verse each day. There's 18,000 verses in Bhagavatam. If you went through them one verse a day, then you'd only cover it. It'd take you 50 years just to cover the first 18,000. I did a calculation once. So that means you'd hear the verses maybe once in your lifetime. Right? If you don't live to be 100, you'll hear some more, But the thing being, you have to make a connection between these things. Because other than that, there's a disjointedness in the practice. So understanding Sambandha, its relation to Abhideya and the Prayojan. I gave the example, you mark off 100 yards, that's the Prayojan. The Abhideya is the practice of running that distance on a consistent basis to build up your stamina, speed, everything you need to run a 100-yard dash. Sambandha is the identification with, I am a track star, this is me, and this is how I'm related to everything. And the fact that I'm a 100-yard dash specialist is indicated or defined by the practice I'm doing. If I'm a what do you call it, marathon runner? Am I practicing the 100-yard dash?
No.
So the practice informs me of my identity in relation to things. If I'm consistently practicing a 100-yard dash, it's because I'm a 100-yard dash sprinter. If I'm running marathons, it's because I'm a marathon runner. So the practice helps define the identity. So that's a loose example, but in Bhakti, the practice, the word Abhideya comes from Abhida. Abhida means to define something. So the practice is defining the Sambandha and refining the Sambandha.
And wouldn't you also say that the goal determines the practice?
The goal is the objective of the practice.
So but because of the goal, right? It is because you have a particular goal that you have a particular practice.
Give me 1 second. I got somebody at the door. Just give me 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So
I was saying that the goal determines the practice, because it's only because you have a particular goal that you are doing a particular practice.
Exactly. So the goal determines, and Abhideya defines it. In other words, like, let's say somebody could say the deities that you worship in your temple are Radha and Krishna, right?
Okay.
But I've been to temples where there's Radha Krishna worship, like in a lot of the Indian community, like in some temples, they'll build a temple for the community, not just for a certain section of community. So there are people there who worship Durga or Ganesh, right? But the deities established are Radha and Krishna. You understand? That's in that temple. So Abhideya is also important, because if you have deities of Radha and Krishna, but you're worshiping Ganesh, Will you go to Goloka Vrindavan?
No.
So therefore, the goal and the abhideya has to align, and that defines the sambandha. So let me give you the idea. The goal is the worship of Radha Krishna. Those are the deities established by our Srila Prabhupada. Also deities in relation to Radha Krishna, like Gaur Nitai or Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. In rare occasions, he established Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. That was primarily for the fact that there were a lot of Ram worshippers in a particular community, and they contributed to the temple, like our own temple in Houston or the temple in Bombay, Jew temple, the Sita Ram. And also because there's a relation to Ramachandra Bhagavan and Krishna Bhagavan, but I want to speak more to our point. So in our line coming from Mahaprabhu, the worship of Radha Krishna is prominent. So Srila Prabhupada establishes those deities. Then look at the program that we practice. You wake up in the morning, you offer your obeisance to your spiritual master. So let's take Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. First thing we've done is say, oh, I'm giving up all false egos and everything else and surrendering to Srila Prabhupada, who's very what to Krishna?
Dear.
Very dear to Krishna. You understand? Not dear to Ram, this, very dear to Krishna. You understand? And then afterwards, we go and we're going to actually sing the Guru Astakam. We're going to glorify our Guru before we glorify Radha and Krishna. Throughout the whole Guru Astakam, is there any indication of any other worship than that of Radha and Krishna?
No.
Whole prayer. I mean, they could have thrown in one or two verses for Nisringadev or something. They could have done something. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, whom Srila Prabhupada took the song from, established this Guru Astakam. Does anybody know the foul Stuti verse to the Guru Astakam? It's the last verse. Not Yasya Prasadad Bhagavad Prasada. What's the very last verse?
Srimad Guru Rashtakam Etaduchair Brahme Muhurte Patati Prayatnat Yastena Vrindavana Natha Sakshat Shantaiva.
So what seva will you obtain? Sevaya Lapya means you'll obtain a service. To whom directly? Sakshat?
Vrajendra Nandan.
Vrajendra Nandan Sri Krishna. So we just sang a whole song every morning, 50 years. This is the person who wrote the song said this is what it's for. So if that's not where I'm trying to go, why am I singing this? If I'm a marathon runner, why am I practicing the 100-yard dash? Then after that, we go and worship Tulsi Devi, Vrinda Devi. What are we asking Tulsi Devi? Somebody sing just part of this Tulsi part, Stuti. Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namo Ye Tamara Sarana Loy Taravancha Punahoy Kripa Kori Korotare
Vrindavana Vasi.
Brinda. Oh, Brinda, can you please make me a resident of Vrindavan? 50 years, you're asking. I want to be a resident of Vrindavan. Morae Abilas, Vilash Kunji Diovash. Oh, I also have another request. Can you please allow me to take part in the Kunja Vilas of Radha and Krishna? E Nivedanadara Sakir Anugata Koro. Who knows what this means?
Please let me become a follower of your Sakis.
Let me become a follower of your Sakis. I don't want to be like Lalita Visakha. Who's the followers of the Sakis? What are they called?
Manjaris.
50 years, I'm asking for Manjari Bhav. Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Basi, and may always witness the transcendental Leela of Radha and Krishna.
Right.
So this is the Abhideya. This is the practice. So it's defining a goal, and it's also defining a sambandha for me. That's why Abhideya is in the middle. Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. The Abhideya is defining the goal and is defining the sambandha. All right. Anyone else? Last question.
Prabhuji, sorry. You're saying Abhiday is also defining the Sambandha?
Yes, in the sense that the practice, let's say you were unsure of what the goal is. In the practice, it's telling you, just like we were just describing, all of the things we're doing in the practice are giving indication. Like, let's say I didn't know which direction to go to get to a particular town, right? And I'm walking on a path and I see a sign that says, Chicago this way, Chicago turn left, Chicago 5 miles ahead. What is all of those different signs on my path that I'm walking telling me?
You're going to Chicago.
I'm going to Chicago.
Yeah.
So if all of the different things we're singing, praying, asking for, etc., are all related to Radha Krishna, it's kind of defining that goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exclusive. What's also defining the goal is bhakti sanskars from previous lives, association with sadhus. This is told by our acharyas. Yatottara masu aswada viseshulashmayepi rati vasanaya swadi bhashate kapikasyachit. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.538, Rupa Goswami, he says, what is it that among all the different rasas, like Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, what is it that Viseshula Shmayapi, what is it that makes a person have a particular special mood towards one of these rasas? He answers in the next line, Rati Vastanaya Swadvi. That Swadvi means that taste, and that rasa has come from Rati Vasans, impressions in bhakti. Where did the impressions come from?
Sadhu Sangha. From Sadhu.
If we had any doubt, Vishwanath, first Jiva Goswami answers, he says, certainly it has to come from impressions.
Yeah.
It can't come from no impression. Then the question becomes, where did it come from? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary says, it has come from the impression of a sadhu with that same mood. And therefore, in this life, we also have, by associating the sadhu, have that same mood. Now, does that mean there's nothing in us regarding that?
Potentiality is there.
Yes. The potentiality of that mood. And in the attainment of that mood, was that mood always present?
Oh.
Yes. In the attainment of it,
Okay.
you understand? Because it's in Nityavatmanakal, it's in eternity, it means it was always existing. This is the little nuanced thing that all of the debates on Swarupa of the Jiva center around this misunderstanding. But Bhakti Bhakti Maharaj, when they first asked him this question, he said it will depend on drishtikon. What angle of vision are you looking at it from? When you obtain your Manjari Swarup, when were you not that Manjari? You understand?
Yeah.
When were you not that Manjari? When you become Vinod Manjari, you'll remember I was Vinay?
No.
Bhakti Vinod Thakur directly says, when will I obtain my city and all my remembrances will be flushed away? So from that angle of vision, you will always Vinod Manjari.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Therefore, the Guru can say, yes, whatever your Swarup is already present there. Because when you have it, it's always there. That's an eternal reality.
Mm-hmm.
But from our line of vision as sadhakas, can we say everything is already there?
No.
No, we have to go by what the acharyas say. We have impressions from sadhu sangha, and we're going through the process of bhakti, etc. Because if you do that, then what happens is a misunderstanding comes that everything is there, then somebody will challenge you. Well, if your sthai bhav is made of Swarup Shakti, how did the Swarup Shakti become covered by Maya? And then you get all of these massaging and dancing around philosophically to try to give that argument, and you just can't. Not only that, but there's a verse in the Vishnu Purana, Ladini Sandini Samvit Twai Eka Samasrito. Oh Bhagavan, the three elements of Swarup Shakti exist in you alone. Natu Jiveshu, they do not exist in the Jiva. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the Jivas don't have Chit Bal. But Sat Chit and Ananda are a expansion. They're a sort of, I don't want to say shadow, but they're an expansion in some ways of Sandini, Samvit, and Aladini.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? But they don't have the vrittis of those things. In other words, the Ananda in the Jiva, the Bada Jiva, will it allow you to realize, the cognition in the Jiva, the Chit in the Jiva, will it allow you to realize Krishna by
No, it's
itself?
minute. It's very minute.
Very minute.
Yeah.
Will the Ananda give you the experience of Premananda? No, it's very minute. It'll have to be endowed with and connected to the original vrittis of Sandini, Landini, and Samvit.
Prabhuji, can you repeat the Rati Vasanya, like the Rati Vasanya?
Yeah,
What is
it's
this?
Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.5.38. Rati Vasanaya Swadvi Bhashate Kapi Kasyatit. Bhashate means it manifests. Due to Rati Vasana. Swadvi, the taste in a particular mood, manifests because of Rati Vasanas. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary says, hold on one second. Let's take one more question. Vina, I'm going to come back. Mohini, can you hand me Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? It's the first one. It's right there. You see Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the bigger one. On that shelf right there, go across. You see it? You see it? I think you're pointing at it. Go back. Go back. What is that right there? That's not that. Oh, that's it. Yep. Give me the big one of the two. That the big one. Is that volume 2 or 1? This is volume 2. Let me have 1. Hand me that one also. Hold on, Vina. I just want to quote it directly.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Haribo.
Hari Bol. So I just want to, I know we are going through this so many times.
There it is up top, sweetie.
So the potential cannot be changed. The potential is there in Jiva. We do not know in the sadhak stage. Till then it is not illuminated by the Sadguru or the high class Vaishnava. But the same potential will be illuminated which is there in Jiva. That potential cannot be changed by the sadhu with whom we are associating. It is true that in the conditioned stage, we do not know. Like I am Asha Pandey right now, and if when I became in perfected stage, I may say that okay, I'm the I'm in the Nugatya of Yashoda Maya, or my mood is in Vatsalya Ras, but whatever potential any jiva is having, they are not aware of that potential at the time, neither at the time of condition stage, nor at the time that, okay, I was not in Batsal stage, I was Asha Pandey, but my potential, whatever is there, or anybody potential, whatever is there, it cannot be changed. It can be only illuminated by the association of Sadguru or high class Vaishnava, which helps in illuminating the potential.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They're saying like that. But Gurudev was asked by Bhagavat Maharaj on a walk right in front of the house here about that. And he said, oh, Gurudev, can the Swarup of the Jiva be changed? So I have that video. And Gurudev says, what Swarup? You have no Swarup at this point.
It is true. That's true. 100%.
So what can't be changed is when a particular mood has been established. Like in the ordinary Bada Jiva, right? There's not a predetermined rasa. We can only speak of predetermination retrospectively. When they obtained their siddhi, we say it was always there. But in that state, right now, we have to go by what the acharyas are saying from that angle of vision. This is the problem with this debate and giving the idea that what's there can't be changed. That it can't be changed in the sense that whatever you manifest in the ultimate reality has always been eternal. But from our perspective right now, we will see.
We do not know.
But because we don't know, that's why Gurudev told Bhagavat Maharaj, what Swarup? Because if you're not conscious of a Swarup is composed of 3 things. Sandini, Samvitana, Ladini, correct?
But Swarup is different than potential. Right now, we are just talking about potential cannot be it has to get illuminated. It has to get evolved and come out.
Yeah,
But
here's
the way the seed
Here's the
has...
thing, the acharyas are not saying that. In the Sadhaka Avast, we're saying like that. But that's the acharyas are not saying. We could say like that, but the acharyas have not given that. even when Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this is chapter 26. If somebody has time, we have a few minutes and I'm feeling much better. And Parvati said this right at the beginning. I was not feeling well. So as soon as you start talking, you're gonna feel better. So I'm asking, my wife said that as well. So can somebody do me one favor and get Jiva Dharma and go to chapter 26? Because this will really help Asha to see from the point of view of Bhaktivinoda Thakur as well. But I'll read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary here now, right? So I quoted the verse already, so I'll just read the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I've already discussed the commentary of Jiva Goswami. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary to 2.538 in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Among the various tastes, such as sweet, sour, and bitter, a particular person has a particular liking because of previous impressions. Because of impressions from past life of a particular ras, such as dasya, in this life also, the person has that taste alone and not others. How do they have it? By the mercy of a great devotee with a similar taste. This is the case for all of the different ratis from dasya all the way to Madhurya Rasa. So this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. So he's saying that the mood is from the impressions coming from a sadhu. When we obtain our siddhi, retrospectively, we can say, this has always been me. And right now, in this world, we can also, speaking from that angle of vision, say, the potential I have is for this. We can also speak like that when there's some maturation of understanding that, yes, I have the desire for Manjari Bhav fixed. In other words, when we come to the point of maturity in our practice, this is what my Gurudev gave me in the mantras, etc., etc. I am not changing that. No sadhu sangha can change that. Gurudev said that's the other way it becomes fixed. He said normally that happens in the stage of a Shakti, but it can also happen by indication even in lower stages. Like right now, for most of Gurudev's disciples, is it anybody who does not aspire for Manjari Bhav?
No.
99.9%.
We can aspire, but it doesn't matter. It is not 100% true that everybody, whatever I will have inside, I do not know that will come up. Even Gurudev is in Madhurya Ras, but that is the Adi Ras. It can nourish even if my mood is in the Vatsalya Ras.
Yes. Yes.
Sakya Ras, Vatsalya Ras, any Ras. And it is true that everybody wants to have the best college. So everybody, whether my mood is in the Sakya Ras or Das Ras, I'm aspiring to become, but I will only become whatever my potential is.
No, see, this is actually, this is my difficulty with the devotees promoting that. Because
But that is the Sundar, that was
I
the
know,
discussion.
I wrote the Sundar Gopal. Part of the issue here is that they're in a mode of debate with Padmanabha Maharaj. Not our Padmanabha Maharaj, with the other Padmanabha Maharaj. And because of that debate, they are sometimes extrapolating beyond what the actual acharyas are saying. Like there's a little bit of massaging of words. So I have written back and forth, and Sundar Gopal sent me all of his research that he was doing for Oxford, and we've been in communication. I admire the research, but the essential issue is that there's a little bit of massaging of things to make the idea stick that bhakti is inherent. Bhakti is inherent teleologically because every soul is the das of Krishna and their purpose is to love and serve Krishna. But a particular ras, if it's predetermined or not, we have to look in scripture. So, does anybody have Jiva Dharma?
I have it.
Got it.
Go to chapter 26 and you'll read down. Brajanath is going to ask a question to Babaji Maharaj, whether the ras of the jiva is predetermined. And let's listen to his answer.
Rajanath asks, is Ras a principle that is predetermined? Goswami answers, I cannot answer that question in a single word, yes or no.
Okay, hold on right there. If the rasa is in fact predetermined, what would the answer be?
Yes.
Yes.
Why would Bhaktivinoda Thakur say yes? I can't say yes or no. Because exactly what Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj said. it will depend on the angle of vision you're looking at it from.
Yeah.
Now go on. He's going to cite the same thing that Rupa Goswami cites. So go on and read. He'll talk about the sthai bhav, which is the beginning of a swarup, is your sthai bhav. So go on and read down. I'll stop you when he gets to that point.
I will explain the subject elaborately so that you can understand it clearly. The Krishna Rati about which you have heard from your Gurudev is called sthai bhav.
Hold on 1 second right there. So the sthai bhav is what we're talking about, right? That's our permanent relationship with Krishna. That's what we're all talking about, correct?
Yeah.
Shadidi?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, read on.
When the other components, samagri, of ras are combined with the sthai bhav, the resultant manifestation is called Krishna Bhakti Ras. Vrajanath asks, will you kindly explain in detail what is sthai bhav and what are the constituent ingredients, samagri, of ras? We have heard from our Gurudev.
Okay, 1 second here. So he asked 2 questions. He asked him to first explain the sthai bhav. In other words, explain the swarup of the jiva. He's asking him first explain that, then explain how it mixes with the other samagri to create bhakti rasa. Okay, go ahead and read.
We have heard from our Gurudev about bhav, but we have not heard how bhavs combine with each other to form ras. Goswami answers, ordinarily, at the stage of bhav, bhakti is Krishna Rati. This rati arises in the heart of the bhakta from the samskars of past and present lives.
Hold on. What did he say?
This rati arises in the heart of the bhakta from the samskars of past and present lives.
What did Rupa Goswami say?
From the samskars of past and present lives.
Have any of them said from Bhaktivinoda Thakur to Rupa Goswami, it was a predetermined thing already there?
No.
That's why I'm saying they have to be careful with this, because it has to still line up with Sadhu and Sastra. Now, again, from the angle of vision of when your Swarup is manifest, could you look retrospectively and say, you were always this person?
You can.
You could say, well, Krishna arranged the Sadhu Sangha to give me the impressions, but we can always say that after the fact.
Exactly. But we have to follow the acharyas in their analysis of it as we are in our sadhaka-vas. In the siddhi, in the position of siddhi, we can look and say, oh, this was always the case. Just like if somebody gets married, you can say, nah, they were always going to be together. That was already predetermined, retrospectively.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. If it is like that, then in Brihad Bhagavatamrit, the Gop Kumar thing, he made so many sadhus. He made like first in the Kamaksha Devi, then Naradji, then another. And he went to different places. And he was in a very good stage. But he didn't like it. Even if he was in Vaikuntha, he has to come back again, start doing his practice. Till then, he did not achieve the Sakyaras. So one example is there he gave. Then another example he gave that the same Guru, Vijay Kumar, and what was his mama's name? Vijay Kumar.
Yeah, Vijay Kumar and Brajanath. They both went to Gopal Guru Goswami.
They were getting teaching from the same Guru. But once their Ruchi Pariksha was done, then he said, okay, you are like this, you are like that. So if some Guru or somebody changes, due to that the sanskar is being changed or impression is being given, then both of them should have got the same thing.
No, because they both had different impressions from previous lives.
That is the only thing Sundar Gopal is saying, that the potential cannot be changed. The potential can be illuminated.
No, the potential can't. Yeah, hold on 1 second.
Haribol, I appreciate your sharing. We're going to have to go with Gurudev's last word on this because it's way after our time.
I'll call Asha because we always have these discussions.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen here. Asha, I'll call you afterwards. She's back in, yeah, she's back. She's still in India? Yeah. It's really late there. Yeah. I'll try.
Hari-bol Mukunda, can you maybe talk about it tomorrow in our class more? Unpack it a little more in our Ishta-dev?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do
Okay.
that. But I'll also call Asha because we always have these conversations.
Because I think I would like to understand too, because I know this continues to go back and forth, and I feel like in this conversation, I'm beginning to really get it. I mean, that if you don't have the previous impressions, you know, it's both that Krishna is arranging for us to continue on a path of the impressions that we have, but those impressions are from previous. But it is so. Okay.
The bottom line point will be we have to go by what the acharyas have said. And then, you know, we can look at from both angles because, you know, Guru Dev has spoken that and Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj. So there's ways to look at it from both sides. But if you present it in a certain way, it sleeps into being incorrect. So we'll do like that. All right. Manini, go ahead while you're there and do the kirtan.
Okay, Haribol. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Eva Cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Sham.
Jai Hari Bol. So
Jai.
this is the last class for now because I'll be traveling, obviously, upcoming here in the next week or so. So I don't know where I will be that I get a chance again to have the class like this. So I will leave up to Parvati Didi how she may want to arrange, because before I'm in Cleveland, if it's next Sunday and devotees want to get together, there are many senior devotees, and also you can get together and have Ishta-goshti. You can do reading, so many different things. So it doesn't have to stop the gathering altogether. Obviously, when I'm in Cleveland, we have a Sunday program, and I don't know if I'll get a chance. It may be a little much to try to do this before going to Palmar and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll just play it by ear, but this will be my last class for now for a little while. Jai Hari Bol. So did Prem Prasad come on? I want to wish her happy birthday directly. I did already, but she may have had to work today.
She's here.
Oh, happy birthday. Prem Prasad. Prasad's birthday. Very nice. Where is she? I don't see her.
Which Prem are you talking about?
No, Prem Prasad.
I don't know who's Prem Prasad. Who's that?
Prasadat.
Oh, Prashada, yeah.
Today's her birthday. Yeah, she had to work probably.
Oh, okay. All right.
Haribo, Virginia, she's working.
No, I don't know if she's working today or not. There was one of her best friends' mother passed away yesterday.
Oh.
And so, and it being her birthday, she went over to, to their home to console them. So I don't know how late it was when she got back home. So I think that's probably why she didn't.
It was late.
Come on today.
Okay.
Her and John.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I will see everybody very soon. Everybody knows that the book is finished. Maybe 1 or 2 edits more. Finally have the book, and it's a size that people will carry, so it's not too big to carry. So we got I think maybe 1 or 2 edits, and then I think we're good. All right. Haribo, my Dandavat Pranam, Vanchiko. Jai Radhe Radhe.